Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Norsca in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. The bastard race of Warhammer 1 that has never been properly reworked by Creative Assembly going into either Warhammer 2 or Warhammer 3. So they play like a Warhammer 1 race with some minor tweaks and updates here and there, but overall playing like a race that was released almost a decade ago. And there are quite a few issues as a result of that. Now, Norsca may or may not end up being part of the Sinnelleos DLC. I do think that if they're not doing Dark Elves, it might make sense to do Norsca, but we'll have to wait and see on that subject. For all we know, they could end up doing Cafe. What do we know about that subject? Hey, who knows? Maybe surprise Yin release. Regardless, Norsca does absolutely need an update, a major rework in their race because of the various issues they have. So let's talk about the issues. The first issue is actually going to be related to the monster hunts in the game. So these are kind of like adventure challenges for you to do with respect to Norsca. The problem is that they're not especially great as adventures. You get objectives to either recruit a certain number of units or to go to Settlement X and raid it, or sack it, loot it, or move to a certain region. That system not only is tedious, and it's based on the old quest system of Warhammer 1 and 2, which thankfully we've moved past, but not only is that system pretty annoying to deal with, it's also prone to bugging out. There are many times where I tried to play a Norscan campaign and these kind of objectives would just flat out bug out, preventing me from doing monster hunts. And this is not some minor thing either in a Norscan campaign, because you kind of want to do the challenges. Actually, you don't kind of want to do them, you do want to do them. Here's what I think Creative Assembly should do with respect to the monster hunts. Redesign them. And if you can either have them as individual quest battles they can access instantly, though they're a bit ridiculous in as far as quest battles are concerned. Actually, I think they're some of the hardest quest battles because you can easily lose an entire army. So maybe some rebalancing would be in order. But more importantly, they could make them more in line with Malachi's adventures. See, Malachi's adventures are kind of similar on a very surface level, except they actually work. So I think like you could have that idea of objective systems with certain units. It would also give Norsca's armies, which are not really that great, a significant combat boost because you would have various upgrades to units that you're using. Upgrades for, say, marauders or marauder hunters or berserkers or trolls, you name it, mammoths. That would be pretty damn great. And hell, if we could get a couple of free units the way Malachi does, that would be even better. But really, monster hunts bugging out with quest objectives is actually one of the least of Norsca's issues. Let's consider their objective with allegiance to the gods. Your fundamental objective is to reach free allegiance with one of the gods, and you want to do so. It's not like a system in other campaigns where you only care about it if you're looking to finish an objective. This is actually a system you want to do because the benefits you're getting, like 20% casualty replenishment rate, upkeep, Lord Recruit rank, win recovery time, unit experience, these are very substantial benefits in a campaign. But here's the kicker about how this system works. There are certain ways of earning allegiance, but the primary way of earning allegiance is to do exactly this. Go to a settlement, fire a bell, and then raise that settlement to the ground. Now, there is going to be a number of issues that are going to come up as a result of how this allegiance system works. First off, when you dedicate allegiance to one of the gods, you lose allegiance with the others. I think Daniel actually has a better system with this, I should add. Because, Daniel has an incentive to get glory with the various gods, but he's not going to lose out flat. He's not going to lose allegiance with others just because he focused on one of them. The other issue is Norsca is a race that has a limited economy. So, when you're raising settlements to the ground, you're not sacking them. So, yes, Norsca, you have the ability of gaining money by raising settlements to the ground. You're also losing your movement range. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And so you end up in a situation where the best way to play Norsca is not to do what I just did. It's actually to one turn, sack the settlement, the next turn raise it, and then have a second army come in and reoccupy it because you may want the settlement. You may want that specific center of recruitment in a province or economic potential, especially if it is a port. But you're getting screwed over to get this allegiance system going. It is not a fun and dynamic campaign. It's also bugging out for whatever reason when, I move the tooltip over. And a lot of the rewards don't really feel, like the high-level rewards, the lords or heroes they get don't really feel that great. Something else to talk about, beyond, balance issues with these kind of lords, something else that is worth really talking about with respect to lords and heroes is how bad Norscan lords actually are. You only have one lord choice. You should really have 3 at least. And the problem is they're not really that great in combat, except like if you give them a war mammoth. And on top of that, they are lacking a melee skill line, and they have a choice over here between dedication to one of the gods. Berserk is essentially the one you probably want to go for, or to go with regeneration. One of those two is that kind of choice in a campaign. Like, there's pros and cons with these, but it is not especially great when you're looking at this. I think Norsca could either use a dedication system for one of the gods where you gain benefits, say, we'll dedicate a Marauder Chieftain to one of the gods, you get significant benefits to that god, or you can try and get Undivided, which may be more difficult in some ways, but does confer you greater benefits. So maybe you don't get as many significant benefits as you do as in certain ways as dedicating to one god. But they absolutely need a melee skill line, and they need more hero choices, lord choices, and even hero choices. Or rather, they need a better way to get access to heroes. Because speaking about getting access to heroes, your heroes in a Norscan campaign, if you're looking at skinwork skins, and shaman sorcerers, they can be recruited at tier 3. That is not in itself great. I think like all heroes should be recruited at tier 2 and increase capacity at tier 3. I think that's a much more reasonable situation. But the big problem here is that you only have one hero that gives you casualty replenishment. At least you do have a hero that gives you casualty replenishment. The problem is that hero can only be recruited and increase capacity at tier 4. So that ends up hurting your situation in terms of casualty replenishment as Norsca. Yes, even though you can get 20% casualty replenishment for Nurgle, which, if that's really the case we're dealing with in every campaign, then we're going to be pushed towards doing that every single time. So some change needs to happen, especially because a lot of Norscan units don't really have great durability. They're glass cannon units, so they end up taking more damage. And as a result of that, you will need that casualty replenishment more than in other races. It's one thing for dwarves to manage a campaign with, say, 5%, 10% casualty replenishment without the Dragon Slayer hero. It is a very different situation for Norsca, because Norscan units do take down much more damage. And mind you, it does affect the dwarves too. Slayer units, ranger units, they're low armor units, they're low durability units, which dwarves do have. But there's a lot more low durability units. Another thing to be said about Norsca is the unit recruitment itself. Marauder champions should not take 2 turns to recruit. They're also prohibitively expensive compared to their combat benefits. They're strong units in combat, I don't dispute that. They're really solid infantry, but you can recruit Chosen in 1 turn. Marauder champions should not take more to recruit, longer to recruit, or be more expensive than freaking Chosen of Khorne. That is just flat out ridiculous in a campaign. There's also a lot of things they like Norsca's cavalry, not that great. Their chariots, some of their monsters are good, some of their infantry is good, but yeah, they end up having a very limited roster. And this is compounded by the way their economy works. So Norsca is a naval dominance faction. Unlike the Vampire Coast, and yes, the Vampire Coast would dream of having their ports maxed out at tier 3. Imagine having that. Like, you want to fix the Vampire Coast? Okay, let us just max out our ports at tier 3 and improve their income. That's what Norsca can do. The downside is, of course, that these ports are still expensive. They do give you growth, casualty replenishment, and all that, so they are useful. You might justify the price, and they do give you a lot of income, but is that problem that you're paying a lot of money that you don't have? And ports are uniquely vulnerable because of at least the way the AI behaves with regards to attacking settlements, interestingly enough. Though I think that may be changed with the campaign AI beta. Somewhat. Or they might be less likely to attack you via the sea, or more likely to attack you via land. It's a mess of a situation. In my experience, sea settlements either are annoying to attack because of the way the terrain works around them. So like this entire province of the Icetooth Mountain, you can't attack the ports directly, you have to land somewhere else and then make the trek on land. Or you can attack them directly, in which case they create a significant vulnerability. And Norsca is not really great on defense. Outside of that, Norsca's resource system, the resources Norsca has, they can give you some benefits, but in trade benefits and all that, but Norsca's economy is genuinely freaking pathetic outside of that. I understand the focus on naval aggression, but it just doesn't work. You can't just rely on a specific type of resource that's only found in certain settlements. And you might say what sacking and looting income can be good with Norsca, but again, you have that raising situation with settlements. So there's a combination of things that Norsca does need in order to improve their economy. You can make it work. That's the thing. You can make it work, but it always feels plain bullshit to make it work. The way you make it work, if you want to know how you do make it work, is you either rely on trading settlements to other factions in exchange for money, though in this case these factions don't actually want to take it, but you either rely on selling stuff to other factions in exchange for money, or you screw yourself over with regards to the favor of the gods, the allegiance of the gods, or you do that lovely little dance that I just described earlier. That in itself, not a great dynamic that they have. Furthermore, the legendary lords, their faction effects are not great. Their lord skill lines can be considered better. I do think that Norsca having confederation through battle with all other Norscan factions, it actually ends up being more of a trap than anything else. Like, if you're playing a Tron campaign, you actually shouldn't confederate the first faction you're fighting. You should actually conquer their territory, because you'll get higher levels, more money, etc. And yes, and since the settlements are low level anyway, you're not really going to lose out on that much with respect to it. So just something worth pointing out. Then we have Norsca's research tree, which, suffice to say, is a mess and a half. Everything on the left side, it's more reasonable in as far as research goes, though there's a lot of fluff. The problem is what's on the right side. So you get these significant benefits by taking over specific settlements around the world. The problem is, for a faction that's supposed to be about naval aggression and raiding across the world, you're actually really bad at doing that. Imagine journeying all the way to Karazakarak as Norsca. Now, they could fix this for Wulfric by giving him some kind of teleportation mechanic, which he had in the lore, but I think inherently having so much really good stuff locked away behind the idea that you're occupying specific settlements of specific factions doesn't end up working for Norsca. Also, the fact that you have to, and it's not like fast research either. You're looking here at research that takes a very, 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 very long time, and by the time you get it, your campaign is long over. No one can seriously argue that you're gonna play a 200 turn campaign as Norsca. Some people do, I understand, but you gotta understand most people play 80 turn campaigns. That is, I think, a number Creative Assembly gave out a while ago, so it just gives you an idea of how the campaign pacing, and it's always been the case, by the way. It's not like it's a new idea. The 100 plus turn campaigns have never really worked out in the history of Total War. I'm talking here as someone who's played since Rome 1. I can look at my old gameplay footage of Warhammer 1. Yes, some people play longer campaigns, some. Most people don't, and even turn 80, it is a slog for a lot of people. So there needs to be a rebalance, and this is just a general issue overall with regards to how research tree works. And one of my problems with how this research tree works in general for races is like, there's a lot of fluff that we never fucking use because our campaigns are over. So it's like, oh great, I get more power by the time I'm really powerful. Thank you, Creative Assembly, that is incredibly useful. Just an overall, I'd say research in general should be much faster in the game. But Norsca is filled with so much trash in general that even making it one turn research rate would still have a lot of issues. And it would still take a lot of freaking turns to get all of this unlocked. So, no research tree, maybe a new campaign resource for Norsca to deal with. That would be great. I think we've seen something from Creative Assembly with what they could do with a research tree much better than before. And that is Kislev. Because you look at the supporter arrays for Kislev. The supporter benefits for Kislev are inherently a way that a research tree can work substantially better than it does before. It confers various choices, and you can get two at the same time. Two choices at the same time. So you're not just like, oh, I'll always rush for this to exclusion and everything else. No, you vary things up in a Kislev campaign with regards to that. Because you do have those two bits of research that you get as opposed to just one with supporters equal research. And on top of that, it is much faster as a system. You don't have to spend 20 turns to unlock something that you don't really care about just because you're actually looking to unlock something else. That's kind of the problem that you end up having in quite a lot of these campaigns with a lot of the research trees. So that is my perspective on Norsca. Norsca itself, as an area of the campaign map, can be either a bit vulnerable to certain factions or can be a complete joke. There's issues with the campaign pacing over here in Norsca as well, especially if you fall into the trap of like, oh, I'll just fight everyone, confederate, all of that. Yeah, you'll become really strong, and then everyone will declare war on you, and your economy won't support that, and boom, you're gonna die. That is one of the issues Norsca does have in a campaign. So all these kind of things, Creative Assembly should look to improve during the course of a Norsca campaign, assuming that they are willing to work on Norsca. We'll see about that. Christine signing out.